Tonight, 10 years to the day since San Francisco issued its first same-sex marriage licenses, it is fitting that the JCRC honor courageous officials like Dennis and Terry, who stand at the forefront of the struggle for justice. It is a reminder of the importance of allies in government and among our communities, and of the daily efforts of the JCRC to build those alliances and secure a brighter future for all.
If you would have told me when I first became city attorney that the thing that I would be most noted for would be same-sex marriage, I would have had no idea.
It was this land that I didn't expect to be in, of a hugely important constitutional challenge on an issue that was very close to my heart.
When they see a goal, and the goal in this case was to win the right to marry for same-sex couples in California, they are unstoppable.
We wouldn't have been successful if we didn't have a broad cross-section of people support the legal effort. Business, clergy, religious groups. JCRC was a key component of that fight.
The JCRC was one of the very first faith-based organizations representing the Jewish community that was involved in marriage equality.
They were steadfast in assisting us in knocking down one of the last barriers of inequality.
It was with great excitement that we watched Dennis Herrera and Terry Stewart in their groundbreaking fight for marriage equality.
Once the state has entered into the business, which it long ago did, of regulating marriage and of denying and granting access to marriage, it has to do that on an equal basis.
We were on the sidelines rooting them on and trying to help bring a faith presence to their fight.
Dennis really laid his political future on the line in standing up for what now we can look back and say, well, it's inevitable, of course. Anyone who wants to be on the right side of history would support the right of same-sex couples to marry, but that's not the way it was in 2004.
It would have been really easy for him to kind of do what everyone had done before and handle something the way that most government lawyers handle things.
I think back that there were a lot of people that, at the time, that didn't think it was the right thing to do.
One of the real joys of working under Terry and Dennis is that time and time again, they look for opportunities to make a difference and really take a stand.
The highlight for me was in 2008 when we learned that the court had ruled in our favor on the constitutional issue.
I issued an opinion at 10 in the morning.
What happened?
Are we going over there?
Do you have a decision?
The court reversed.
That's reversed? What does that
45 minutes later, my daughter called me she was going to school at Cornell. I may cry. And told me she was being stopped on campus. And saying, gee, San Francisco, look what happened. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, the world was on top of all of this for what was done in San Francisco. And Dennis and Teresa Stewart were right there.
I heard a huge holler go up from the Civic Center Plaza.
I thought to myself, even though the anti-gay people are out there, they don't have the numbers to make that kind of a yell. I think we won.
It was impossible for me to not get emotional. And Terry was actually less emotional than me. And she said, what are you getting so emotional for? You're already married.
I was at the U.S. Supreme Court hearing on the final disposition on Prop 8, and I turned around, and there's Dennis and Teresa sitting there. I was so proud of them.
When you see somebody happy and you see the difference you make in their lives when you perform a marriage and know that you played a role in that, something you'll never forget.
What made the challenge to win marriage in California so powerful was to have standing with us elected officials, to have standing with us an entire city, to have the city attorney be the face of what was the right thing to do. That set an example for city attorneys and for elected officials all over the country. And up until that time, it wasn't like that was a very common partnership. They really broke new ground by doing that.
For decades, JCRC has been bringing elected officials, civic and faith leaders to Israel on in-depth political study tours. Dennis came with us in 2004, and Terry came with us in 2009. And I had the privilege of traveling on the 2004 trip, and I was so struck by how well-read and thoughtful and deeply analytical Dennis was about this experience. But I was probably the most moved when I saw how deeply touched he was by this experience of understanding firsthand the meaning and the importance and gravity of Israel to the Jewish people.
The lessons that I learned there, the feelings that I had, the sense of history, the sense of our place in history, and how our place interacting with different faiths, I think, in different communities, is something that you really get in touch with.
After I went to Israel, I started reading more carefully the news about Israel, and I felt like I understood the conflicts better. Not all of them and not completely, but much better than I had before. I felt like my education about the Holocaust and about the need for a Jewish homeland really blossomed.
When JCRC learned that there was a proposed ballot measure which would have criminalized circumcision in San Francisco, we leaped into action. We filed a lawsuit to have this measure removed from the ballot, and we also initiated a full political campaign to educate voters about this outrageous attack on parental choice and religious freedom. But it was really the full weight of the office of the city attorney in filing a brief in support of our lawsuit that was just incredibly crucial to our success.
As some may recall, I ran for mayor in 2011, and for political reasons, we had made an office-wide decision that I would recuse myself from taking positions in any ballot measures.
Terry Stewart was instrumental in deciding that this was an issue that we needed to weigh in on, and that even though government law offices usually stand by and stand aside in these sorts of cases, this was a measure that would unfairly target a religious practice, and we had an obligation to chime in.
The website of the man who was sort of behind the circumcision ban, these comic books, he called them, that were demonizing Jewish people for their practice of circumcision. All the bad characters were Jewish and were dark-skinned and dark-haired, and all of the superheroes in these comic books were blonde, Aryan, and it was so reminiscent of Nazi propaganda.
Terry, in addition to her ferocity, there's just an uncompromising integrity and a desire to do things at the very highest level.
She's an incredibly able advocate. She has a sharp mind. She has great analytical skills. She's incredibly articulate. She's very poised in the courtroom.
In a really stunning victory, the court agreed with the JCRC's arguments and the city attorney's arguments and invalidated the measure before it even went to the voters.
And had this measure remained on the ballot, it would have dramatically changed our Jewish community's sense of security.
It isn't simply any one or two or three cases. It's a whole series of cases involving workers' rights, wage theft issues, immigrant rights, consumer rights, the rights of tenants. These are the kinds of things that they really are interested in, the causes they're interested in advancing. They're looking at issues that I don't think most city attorneys or county council are really looking at.
They have this shared passion for doing the right thing, and that's not always the popular thing.
To me, he's a personal hero. He has a lot of guts, and a lot of politicians feel like no, you have to please everybody. You can't step on anybody's toes, and Dennis isn't like that. We have a responsibility, we have a power, and we're going to use it.
I can't imagine going through these 12 years in this office on all the issues that I've worked with anybody else. because her values are my values. I know where her heart is. I know what an incredible mind she has, and I know what a great person she is. I've been the lucky one to have her alongside me over the course of the last 12 years.
There is no public law office in Northern California, and probably this state, and maybe the nation, that is the match of the city attorney's office in this city.